Okay, I have been working in IBM Message Broker, IBM MQ, middleware space for close to 12 years now.
Okay.
So I've been doing all these integration flows, message using mainly message broker tool
Okay.
and Java and all that stuff. So I'm used to creating all these integration patterns using message broker. But now,
Okay.
we're looking into more less cost efficient alternatives like JBoss and Apache Camel and all that stuff.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get myself familiar with Apache Camel and JBoss. My understanding is JBoss is more supported version of Apache Camel, right? I don't have much knowledge on JBoss or Apache Camel, so I'm trying to spend this time to get like really good understanding of what it is and how to create and all this stuff.
Okay. So basically, JBoss Fuse is an enterprise service bus ESB, and it is a product from Red Hat. Earlier, there was a product called Progress Fuse, which was bought by Red Hat, and they renamed and rebundled it as the Red Hat JBoss Fuse now. So when I started working on ESB, I started working with Progress Fuse, which is like a predecessor of JBoss Fuse. So later it was rebranded by Red Hat as JBoss Fuse. So it is an enterprise service bus, and it is based on open source stack. So it is using multiple open source technologies for various aspects. So if we are looking for routing and mediation, then it is using Apache Camel. So Apache Camel is basically an integration framework. Using this framework, we can do system integration. So JBoss Fuse is built on top of Apache Camel to provide integration solutions. Also, we need a messaging broker, like you work with IB broker. So there's a inbuilt message broker with Fuse, which is based on Apache ActiveMQ. So it is using Apache ActiveMQ for the message broker. It has support for other open source technology stacks like Apache CXF for web services. It has support for Spring, other third-party libraries for various dependencies, and so on and so forth. It is also normally, if you talk about any application server like Tomcat or JBoss, they are J2E servers, Java 25 edition servers. JBoss Fuse is also J2E server, but it is using OSGI as a runtime container. So it is based on OSGI. OSGI stands for Open Source Gateway Initiative, and it is basically a concept, model action concept, where they specify how should we modelize our application, how should we tell our dependencies, how should we tell our services to other persons. So it's a concept through which you can externalize your dependencies and manage your dependencies. So this is being a specification. There are many vendors who are providing the implementation for it. So implementation is coming from many vendors like Equinox, Apache Felix, Perfish. So they are providing different implementation for OSGI. So it's like you can undertake as a technical RFC, and then multiple people are providing the implementation for that. For each implementation, there is a runtime. So Apache Felix provides a runtime called Apache Caraf. So it is a runtime container which provides basically an environment where you can run any application based on OSGI. So Apache Caraf is being used in JBoss Fuse for the runtime container part. So basically you deploy your application in Fuse, which means that you are deploying your application in Apache Caraf. So
Okay.
we need to, yeah.
Can I ask questions now or should I wait?
No, if you have anything, you can ask.
Okay. So I'm trying to draw analogies from, I don't know if you're familiar with Message Broker as a ESB. So Message Broker has its own, when I install Message Broker, it creates its own runtime environment then I create, it has a development environment where I create all these, MQ nodes and compute nodes and Java nodes and all that stuff, and I create a integration pattern, and then I deploy it to the message broker runtime.
Yes.
So this graph is like equivalent to a message broker runtime?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
So you deploy Fuse, you install Fuse, then you get a message broker graph runtime, and then you have a development studio from JBoss where you can write your integration logic, you can write your routes, you can write your Java code, and then you bundle them into an application and deploy in graph.
Okay.
Yeah. So little bit more on OSJ, it's like being a specification. There are some standards that it follows. So when you deploy an application, develop an application in Fuse, it has to be an OSJ compliant application. So for doing that, we don't have to do much. Already the architecture types are there, and to create an application of various type. If you want to create a web service application, if you want to create a standard Spring application or standard Java application, then all the architecture types are there. So we use Maven internally to create the project structure, and then use Maven to build and resolve the dependency also. So in OSJ, you need to what is the difference between an OSJ application and normal application? So not much difference. The way you write Java code and all is almost the same. Only thing is when you write an application, you will have a dependencies, right? Suppose that I am writing a Java application to connect to a database. So I will have some dependency on database APIs. I may, if I'm using logging, I may have dependency on logging APIs. So similarly, if you're using any other API or any other feature, then you'll have dependency on those other third-party applications. So in the pom.xml, if you're working with Maven, you're aware of this pom.xml. So in the pom.xml, you will define all the dependencies, and then you will have a plugin that will build the application. So using this the right plugin, so there is a Apache Felix plugin. Using this plugin, if you deploy, if you build the application using Maven, what it will do, it will run through your code and configuration and figure out what are the dependencies you have. Basically, what are the import statements you have in your code, or what are the dependencies you have defined in the pom.xml for the runtimes. And using all those dependencies, it will create a list of dependencies which are called import packages. Import package. So using that import package is a way to say that I need these many packages in runtime to run my application. Similarly, if you are exposing any service for other people, let's say I want to provide an API that you want to use, so that I also will be exposed as an export package. So normally, if you open a jar file from normal Java application or any jar file from an API, if you open it, you will go inside and you will find a meta.inf folder. Inside a meta.inf folder, there could be a manifest.mf file. So normally, if it is a normal Java application, there will be not much information in manifest.mf file. But if it is an OSJ application, then there will be some more details, like what are the export packages, what are the import packages, what are the Java dependencies, runtime dependency, and some more information. Which is different from other applications in terms of these dependency declarations. So once we go into session, once we try to create our own sample application, we'll see all of them. We don't have to go in depth.
So question I have is, I'm not that familiar with Maven. So should I have strong Maven understanding to follow this code?
Zip file, and then extract it somewhere, and then you have to set Maven home. A lot of help is available on documentation, other things are available. How to set up Maven? So just a 5-minute one. And once you have Maven available, then you can create a project in Eclipse our JBoss Developer Studio, and then you can choose what kind of project you want to create. You want to create a web service project, you want to create a standard routing project, you want to create a message broker project. Project, and then you can start and click on the project and say run as ever install. So you don't have to remember the commands even. Only thing is we need to know is we need to little bit understand how it works. How when you say ever install, what it does, and how it creates the jar file, how it knows that what it means. So one session will be more than enough to help you on that.
Okay. Will you be going over that?
Yes, will be in the session. We'll have one session where we'll be doing the installation of Fuse, and then we'll also understand. We'll try to create a new project structure, and we'll try to go through it and try to understand what are the various sections, if it form out XML, how it works, when you do build, what it does, and after the build, what is the result. All those things will go in one session.
Okay.
Okay. So coming on the Camel part, basically. Camel is the most important thing in Fuse because that is the part which is providing the integration solution. So, as I said, Camel is the integration framework. It provides you some utilities, tools, components, patterns through which you can write your integration logic. So, normally when we talk about integration, we are like talking about connecting multiple real-world interfaces. Let's say, for example, you need to connect to a file, get the data, and then send it to a message broker. So, or you want to read a message queue and send the data to a web service. So, it means we are talking about real-world interfaces like a file, FTP, databases, web services, messaging brokers, and so forth. So, in order to connect to those real-world interfaces, what is the approach? If you have to write a code in Java, what you will be doing? You write a utility class which will connect to that interface. Let's say if I have to connect to a file, then I have to get a file. I need to get a utility class to connect to a file, and how to get the file, how to take care of exceptions, all those things I have to do myself. But with Camel, we don't have to write those interfaces to connect to the external interface. Camel provides some ready-made components. Using those components, I can connect to those real-world entities. If I need to connect to a file, Camel gives me a file component. If I need to connect to a web service, Camel gives me CXF endpoints for SOAP. Camel gives me RESTful endpoints for RESTful services. If I need to connect to a message broker, then Camel gives me JMS component through which I can connect to any message broker. So Camel has a list of like 200 plus ready-made components which you can use for your integration. So what is the advantage of using those components is we don't have to spend time in figuring out how to connect to those interfaces, and we don't have to even take care of like if we are, for example, if I'm not able to connect to a file, what kind of exception have to happen. So all those things will be taken care by the component itself. So we can reduce time on interface development and focus more on the business logic part. And then Camel provides very good APIs to do data transformation. Mostly why we need integration is two systems are not compatible to each other in terms of data model or the data format. So Camel provides a lot of options to do my data transformation. So I want to convert an XML format into another XML format. I want to convert an XML into object, or object into JSON. So many things can happen in the integration, and Camel has support for all of them. Also, Camel supports multiple protocols. So somebody is sending data over TCP, but other side can only read into a file. So Camel has support for converting from one protocol format to another protocol format. So it has a lot of support for this business logic requirements where you actually need to manipulate the data, add something to it, enhance it, or you delete something from it. So we'll see all those things. What are the components, commonly used components? What are the commonly used patterns, etc. that we don't use in regular integration practices. We'll also talk about during integration. Normally, Camel has a very good support for enterprise integration patterns. So there are some built-in patterns which will solve your standard problems like you have to get some data and then split it into multiple part based on some conditions. So Camel provides the split APIs, split patterns. If you want to aggregate data, Camel has aggregator. If you want to check some conditions, Camel has something for it. So like that, for various standard problems, Camel has the standard patterns. We can use those patterns standalone mode, or we can combine those patterns and create our own integration pattern also. So we'll see, we'll go through some of the common integration patterns which are useful in day-to-day integration. We'll also go to the data transformation part, where we'll talking about how to convert from one format of data to another format of data using multiple approach. One approach, Camel gives you multiple options to do the data transformation, and not all options will be useful in all cases. So we'll go over some common way for to do the data transformation to understand more on that. We'll also go through when we talk about integration, there could be a very good possibility that there will be errors, like there will be exceptions or errors. So Camel has a very robust exception handling mechanism. So we'll go over the exception handling mechanism to understand when exception has been thrown from interface or from our integration logic, how to handle it. What are the various options we can use to just process the exception or throw the exception back to the person. Apart from that, if there is any issue like I'm not able to connect to database, I'm not able to connect to a broker, then what are the options we have? Can we do a redelivery? Can we do error handling in that cases? So all those things we'll try to understand. Camel also has support for databases. It has different components for connecting to database. It has support for JDBC, SQL. It has support for Hibernate, JPA. So we'll see some database related examples to understand how we can integrate database in our integration. So basically, we'll also understand. We'll see our focus will be to write some integration logic, which is the routes. These are called routes in Camel. So basically, these routes are like some sort of code or some sort of integration logic through which you are trying to connect to systems. So how do you write those codes? How do you write those integration logic? So Camel has integration logic in Spring. If you are familiar with Java, you can write your integration logic in a Java-like language called Java DSL. If you have worked on any scripting like Ruby, you can even write your routes in Ruby. If we are working in OSGI, it has support for new type of XML called Blueprint. So many options are there to write our routes. Many options are there to write our integration logic. So Spring, since people are using it, Spring for many of their work, it is simple. It is easy to write and configure and debug also. You can figure out okay the problem could be here. But other things like Java DSL and Ruby, they are also equally easy. So we'll most of our examples during the session will be in Spring, but we'll also see some example in Blueprint and Java DSL, so that we are aware of different routing logic.
So in the class you will be creating the routes using Spring.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I don't know Spring.
No, it's simple. You don't need to worry about that. It's very simple.
Okay.
Once you start with one example, I will explain you in detail, and next example you will be able to write yourself.
Okay.
It is, and if you're using JBoss Developer Studio, it has a lot of support for intelligence, so you don't have to even remember anything how to write this or that.
Okay.
And also, then once you write your routes, how do you want to deploy it? Like first you have to bundle the application, and then you want to deploy it. So Camel supports multiple deployment model. Basically, few supports multiple deployment model. So for testing purpose, you can do hot deployment, and you can copy your application and put it to a certain folder, and then it will be deployed. So we'll talk about.
So just curious, what is Spring? Is it Is it a programming language kind of thing, or?
Basically, Spring is another project, and it is used for multiple purposes. It's like if you talk about Spring, it's more like dependency injection framework, uh, where you define certain beans which will be doing some work for you. So you can configure some application using Spring.
Okay.
It's more of configuration.
Okay. So here you said you can write the routes using Java DSL or XML DSL, right? So and or you can write using Spring. So it's
Yeah,
easier.
XML is Spring actually.
Or XML with Spring. Okay. Okay. All right. I think it'll make more sense when you work on the samples, right?
Yeah. And so then once you have the routes, you want to see how you want to deploy it. So Camel has support for hot deployment. So for testing purpose, you can use hot deployment, check the route quickly. And but when you really want to go on to the production or UAD kind of environment, you don't want to do hot deployment. So Camel has support for feature-based deployment. Where you can write a deployment descriptor the structure, and you can tell what are the application, what are the jars you want to deploy, what are the dependencies of those jars, and how to manage those dependencies, what are the property file or configurations you need. You create a proper list of all such things and then deploy that file. So it will be deploying your application as a single unit of work. So we'll see that model also. There are also Fuse is not just about writing integration logic and deploying it. It also provides some tools or UI or console through which you can monitor the application. So we'll also see in one session how to monitor the application, how to see what are the applications running, how to start, stop them, how to refresh them, update them. So all those things we'll see. There are also some commands which we should be knowing to manage Fuse. So in one session we'll also go through the list of different commands, useful commands that you should be knowing, and then we'll also see some unit testing aspect of Camel. So if you write your routes, how can you unit test it? If you write our route, how can you debug it? So we'll see some of the examples to do the unit testing and debugging also.
Okay. Can I ask you a question? Like for example, one of a sample route that I have in our project in Message Broker is we read from a IBM MQQ. It's not a JMSQ, it's IBM MQ. And then the input message is XML format. And then I call a REST API and get a response back. But the response, instead of XML, I'm going to send it as a CSV file, a response in a CSV file. But we have additional instances, like we have each flow, like when I deploy, there is this concept of additional instances, so that it has 10 threads running in parallel. So question is, one is there a concept of additional instances and things like that in JBoss? And second question is, in our flow, the entire thing is one unit of work. Like if I read from this file, read from this MQQ and call the REST API, and then write to a file. If writing to the file is failing, the entire thing will get called back. The unit of transaction is maintained. So are those things are also there?
Yeah, Camel has support for transactional lines, so you can use transaction, and then it has support for distributed transaction also. So if your application involves interaction between multiple systems, you can use distributed transaction also.
Okay.
And I didn't get the additional instances. So is it like in once you deploy the broker, you are deploying multiple threads?
Yeah, so instead of just one like when you say routes, instead of one thread picking up the file, picking up messages from that queue one at a time, you have 10 instances, so 10 parallel processing will happen.
Okay. Yes. So When you create a consumer for the queue, you can create concurrent consumers and you can specify number of threads. So at that, if you specify more than one thread, then multiple threads will be running in parallel. And once the messages are available in queue, they will be processing it in parallel. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is there. Different, but if you can create multiple consumers on all the components, no. For example, queue you can create multiple consumers. Similarly, there will be some component which will not support concurrency, so there we cannot use, but definitely on queue we use it.
Okay. Can you give an example of something that won't support concurrency? Hello?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what some. Don't have any ready example in my mind, but there will be some instances we'll come across. See, normally if you're using components like HTTP, web services, or database or queues, they all support concurrency. So,
Okay, all right.
I think maybe one example is like file component where you don't want to introduce concurrency because you don't know if two threads will lock on the same file.
Right.
Yeah. So mostly files, yes.
Okay.
Fine. Children, do you have any question? You good? Any other question? So
No.
I just opened the developer studio. So basically, this application, this is Java Developer Studio that comes along with the Red Hat Java Fuse. So you can download this and use it for your development purpose. It provides a nice UI where you can see the routes, flows. You can export the flow for design documents and all.
Okay. Is it like a graphical interface where you see like different nodes and stuff?
Yeah, you can see your routes the way you design them. You can see it here graphically.
Okay.
So we were talking about like JavaScript also provides you some UI through which you can monitor your application. You can see the logs. You can see if you're using broker, then you can see what are the various queues and topics have been created. Who are the consumers on those queues and topics? If the message is pending or not. Also, Java Developer Studio provides some tools from where we can see the what are the status on the routes, how many messages are coming. If you want to do a live debugging, you can also stop the flow in the live, and then you can see the messages and then debug to next level. So those things are also available in Fuse for the on support.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, here this is based on Eclipse and customized by Red Hat. Here you can write, you can create your applications. Suppose that I want to create a Spring-based application, so I can go to File and I can say New. We'll see this in detail, but just a quick example. So I want to create a Maven project. So most of the time we'll create a Maven project, or if you want, you can create a Fuse project. But the Maven project is more than enough because we can find any suitable architecture type and use that. So then once you come to this result, you will find that different type of project will be listed here. So we will be working on the camel related project. So we'll be saying org.apache.camel. So once you put this filter, you can, it takes a while actually sometime to load all the architectures. So once you put this filter, you will see the list of different projects that you can create as a template. So using this architecture type, you can create a template project. So for example, I want to create a project for, I want to write my route in Java. So I can choose this camel type Java. I want to write my route in Groovy, so I can choose this project. If I want to write my route in Scala, I can choose this project. So if I want to write my route in Spring, so you can choose this project. So here, once you click on any project, you can see also it creates what it does. It creates a camel project with Spring DSL support. If you want to create a route in Spring Boot, you can do that. If you want to create a route in Spring that can be deployed in Fuse, so you can use the Spring DM project. So let's say I want to create this project, and you say next. So
what is Spring DM?
Yeah, basically Spring DM is a module inside Fuse. Using this module, you can deploy a Spring-based route.
Okay.
So normally we'll be choosing a Spring DM project so that I can deploy my Spring route in Fuse. So now, then once you create a project, you will ask of you input like group ID. So basically, group ID is what information I give here is now Maven is asking you some information to create a project. So what is asking? Group ID. Group ID is basically what is the mostly we give this as a company name. So if you're working with ABC company, you will give com.abc. So it's like a parent name, and all the projects will be using same parent name inside the company. Okay. So I suppose that I'm working with ABC company, so I'll say com.abc. Then artifact ID is the name of your project. So now inside one company or one team or inside one group, there could be multiple projects. So all of them can share the same group ID, but they will have different artifact ID. So I want to create a logging related project. So I'll say logging is my artifact ID. Then you can choose a version. So you can choose any version. So I want to choose 1.0 because I'm starting with 1.0. And then you can choose the base package name. And if you're fine with all of this, you can say finish. And then this project will be created in Eclipse. So you see this logging project has been created. You go here, and based on the architecture type you are choosing, the structure of the project will be different. So then you will have a POM file. Inside the POM file, some information will be there, like what is the name of the project, what is the group ID of the project, what is the version of the project, what are the basic dependencies you need to provide. So all those details will be here in this POM.xml. So if I open it quickly, so here if you go to the POM.xml, here you can see some information related to the project. So this is the information that we have given. So group ID, artifact ID, version, packaging, you can choose jar. Then we'll have some dependency management. What are the dependency we have? Here you can provide a list of dependency. For running camel, I need these two. For testing purpose, I need this dependency. For logging, I need this dependency. If you're using any third-party API, you have to give the dependency here. So again, the format of giving dependency will be same as you have to give the group ID and you have to give the artifact ID. And if you know the version, you have to give the version. If you don't give the version, it will take the latest available version. Okay. And then there will be some plugin that will be used to build this your application. So we need to compile. So we need to have a compiler plugin. So all those things we don't have to hand code. When you create a project structure, automatically they will be available for you. So we can create a project and then accordingly all those things will be filled automatically. So then there will be compiler plugin that will tell what is the source compiler and where you want to run this as the target. So you may want to tell that okay, if you're going to run your application in Java 1.8 or if you're going to run it in Java 1.7, you have to tell the appropriate compiler version. And then you will have some plugin to generate the OSGI related manifestation. So using this plugin from Apache Felix, we can generate the OSGI related information in the jar file. So once this information is available, then this jar can be deployed in OSGI environment or any Fuse environment. Okay. So now the project structure is available. So here you will have same in Java where you can write your Java related code if you have anything. and then you will have and then here you will have a source main resource where you can keep your resources. And inside source main resource, you will have a Spring folder. Since I'm going to write my route in Spring, so you will get a Spring folder here, and then you will get the XML file, which is the Spring route. So if you click on this,
so there is no like nodes or anything that you can drag and drop. Everything is you have to write code.
No. You can do it drag and drop. So here, once you open this, you will see the UI, and then you go to the design mode, and then you can go to the source mode. In the source mode, you can see the actual route. In the design mode, you can see the components. If you want to add any component, I want to use the ActiveMQ component. Then you can drag and drop inside the route, and then it will be available here. And then you can configure it. So this is one route. Similarly, you can create multiple routes. Okay. So if you now you created one node here. So this node you want to configure. So you can click on this node, click on this particular thing, and then you can go to the properties here. So you can click on the property of the node, and then you can tell how to configure this. So what is the name of this queue? If you want to give any description, if you want to put any advanced option, then you can see if you're going to use as a producer, then what are the properties you can use. If you're going to use as a consumer, then what are the properties you can use. If you want to use as a common property, then you can give. If you want to use as a transaction, then whether it's transacted or not, all those details you can give. And if you want to know more about this component, there's a documentation also available here. So you can see for ActiveMQ what are the options available. So if you want to know how to configure it, or how to use connection pooling with ActiveMQ, how to use, there will be also some information about how to use it, transactions, all those information will be available here. So you can use this as a reference, and then you can basically configure the properties. So once you configure the property, you can go, if you go to source, you can be able to save it. And if you go to the source, and then you can see the new node has been added. Here you can define the how you want to keep the flow. So all the flows and all you can define. So here you can do in a UI mode also. But once you gain some experience, you'll find it more convenient to do directly in the source. So because intelligence is available, you don't have to remember anything. You say 2 and then say ID, then you can write some ID. So all those information is available. So you don't have to remember anything. Suppose that I want to do something here. So you can just say what are the options available with this URI. If you want to use any pattern, anything, then you can use that. So it has support for all the few patterns. Let's say I want to use a split pattern. So split you can just say, and then you can configure a split, like what are the options available on the split. So you can, these are the options. You can give an ID. You can say parallel processing. You can say the strategy, whether you are using streaming, if you have a timeout. So all those things you can configure on the endpoint itself.
Okay.
So both options are there. You can choose how you want to use it.
This looks quite complex compared to message broker.
Message broker, you have on a message broker, do you do transformation, validation, all those things?
Yeah, we just put drag and drop nodes, and then you can write. It's a proprietary language called ESQL.
Okay.
And then you just it's a query language. So it parses the incoming message. So in JBoss, how does it parse it automatically parses the message?
Yeah, depending on from where you are getting it, it will automatically parse it.
Okay. So if an incoming message is XML, then I can just say, how do I reference that? So I can just say XML dot whatever.
Yeah, there is a also it provides a script internally. It provides a scripting language using that you can access it.
Okay.
So there is a structure of the message you can access. You can use that structure and access the message.
So, I mean, like, in Message Broker, we have this big project, right? So, if you see, there will be like, 10 or 15 flows that will be common code. And then the rest of the projects will call that as a subflow.
Yes.
So those things also you can do here, like you can.
Yes. Yeah. So normally when you write your route, you don't write a huge route which will do everything. So you have to, depending on the flow, you have to identify what are the common flows, and all those common flows you can write in a different route. So suppose that for each message I am doing a validation, for each message I am doing a transformation. Then all those things I don't need to write in all the flows. So I can make it a separate route, and then I can call from my route 1 to route 2. It will do the validation and come back. Yes, we do that.
Okay.
So we can connect multiple routes using different components, and then based on the type of component, you want to get a response back, or you want to just send it there. All those things are also available. So sometimes what happens is I get a message from in one route, and I want to just send it to another route for processing, and I don't worry what happens in that processing. I will continue with my next processing in my current route. So that kind of thing is also that you can send a control to other route asynchronously also. But sometimes what I want to do is I want to send I want to connect to another route and then get the data back from there also. So I want to connect synchronously. So both the options are available in Canada.
Okay.
Depending on the business logic, we can use.
So when you created this project, by default it creates all the timer, set body, log, everything.
No, this is a sample project there. See, if they don't give you anything, then it will be difficult. So what they do, they give you a sample project. So if you don't need the sample, you can just delete it and write your own code. So I will just delete it. You go to the design here, nothing will be there. So you can add a new route and then you can start that.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a sample they give because they don't want to give you an empty code. It doesn't make sense. Right. Similarly, if you go to SSC main Java, here also you will see hello.java file is there. So they give you a sample Java code so that you know that how to start at least. If you don't need it, you delete it and you study your own Java code.
Okay.
It's just one sample. Because we're creating a template project, right? So in this template, they want to give you a sample. So if you don't need it, you just delete it and then it's okay.
Okay.
Also, once you write your route, you can see in the UI, and you can export that. Let's say you want to represent that in some design document. You can export that project and then put in the design document also. Here you can use components. You can use any route. So if you want to filter, I want to filter something. So, or if I want to use a multicast load balancer, I want to do aggregation. So all those things we can do. Also, it has some control flows like you want to do some exception handling, you want to intercept a message, or you want to do some activity inside the loop. So all those things we can use. Also, if you want to do data transformation, so you want to convert data into different type, you want to do some transformation, you want to do Marshall and Marshall, all those things you can do here. If you want to use any thread, if you want to stop the processing, all those things you can, if you want to validate the message, all those things you can drag and drop inside the node. So then here is the list of component that you can use. So it's a big list. So you can choose what component you want to use. I want to connect with I want to connect a file. So once you have the file inside the route, you can pull it, and then you can connect a file. Let's say I want to connect a file to some MQTT protocol. So file will be going to this MQTT. So you can do that. So you can use this. you may find it little new because you're already using a different message broker. But it will take some time to familiarize. But once you're familiar, it's not big deal.
Okay.
Because anything is new, it will not come to us automatically, right? So some sort of resistance will be there. Oh, this is different. I was using it differently. So that will be there. But if you're trying to go into a new component altogether, yes, that unfamiliarity will be there for some time.
Okay.
Okay. Then once you have the project available, then what you need to do is you have to right click on this project and build it. For building, you don't need to remember anything. You can go to run as, you can say Maven clean, it will clean the project. And then you can say, once it is clean, you can see the result here. And then once it is done, and then you can right click on it and say run as Maven install. Then it will install your project. Once it is installed, it will compile the code and it will create, copy all the dependencies, everything, and then it will basically create a jar file. You can see the jar file, and then you can deploy that jar file in Fuse. So this is all you need to know about Maven here, not much.
So when you say deploy to Fuse, you mean that Apache Karaf, right?
Yeah, Apache Karaf, yes.
Okay. How do you deploy? Do you right click and say deploy?
No, not right click. You copy the jar file and then put it to the hard deployment folder for the hard deployment, or you create a deployment descriptor and then deploy it in the Fuse. It's not right click deployment.
Okay, so I mean, again, I'm going back to message broker. So I'm trying to compare. In message broker, when we deploy, we have different what we call execution groups, right?
Okay.
So if I deploy runtime can have different execution groups. However number of execution group we can create is like currently we have 20. So application A we will deploy to execution group 1, application B we will deploy to execution group 2, so that if execution group 1 has some issues, it won't affect application 2. So are there like segregation, like runtime segregation like that?
Normally here what you do is when you create an application, Camel creates a Camel context. So Camel contexts are independent applications which are running inside Fuse. And if one Camel context is impacted, it doesn't impact other Camel context.
Okay.
So here there is nothing like execution group. Here we have a Camel context, and that Camel context is independent of each other. So you can have any number of Camel contexts available in the Fuse, and they all will run independently.
So I mean, is it basically like running in a JVM?
Yeah. So on top of JVM, you have this Karaf runtime, and where basically you deploy your Camel application.
So what happens if like I have 5 different applications and one application is using a lot of memory in the JVM and it is affecting other applications?
See, at the end of the day, you have all the applications share the same memory, right? Same heap. So there could be a problem like if one is impacting, one is taking care of a lot of CPU cycles of memory, then definitely others will not get it. So what you can do is you can individually stop that application and you fix it, and you can let others run.
Okay.
So you can stop on individual application. That is possible. That is available. That can happen with any application. It can happen with message broker also, right? Maybe one execution.
No, that's what I'm saying. With message broker, each execution group has its own JVM.
Okay. Okay. So are you saying execution group is something like a node, different node, which is different installation of broker itself?
No. The broker runtime is divided. I mean, it allows us to create different execution groups, and each execution group comes with its own JVM, its own HTTP listener, everything.
Okay. So All of them will be installed on one server or different server?
Same server.
Same server. Okay. Here they have a concept of fabric. I have not explored it much. There is a concept of fabric where you can create multiple virtual servers inside one instance. So I think maybe it is something similar to your exhibition room.
Okay, but as far as you have used, you will deploy everything to the same fuse runtime.
Yeah. Yeah. As of now, we have no requirement of fabric. It's like a clustering virtual into one. You can create different inside one fuse instance. You can create different fabrics. Those are like small servers which will be running independently of each other. And then you can, in one fabric node, you can deploy some application. In another fabric node, you can deploy another application. And if you think that one fabric is not behaving correctly, you can stop it, and you can create a copy of it, and then you can it will run independently of the first one. That kind of concept is also there, but we have never done this kind of setup. There are a lot of advanced concepts also that is available in Fuse like fabric, but I'm not very familiar with that.
Okay.
But basically, because these things will be taken care by the administrators, they will decide what kind of model they want to use for deployment. Our job is to create application and help them to deploy, and they may deploy it in standalone version, they may deploy it in fabric, they will manage the dependency.
Okay.
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 So if you have any other question, otherwise I'm good from my end.
So, I mean, just to, I mean, you sent the list of like the syllabus for this course, right? Like I'm looking at this. Let me quickly look at that syllabus link. Today is the demo session, right?
Yeah.
So I'm seeing session 1 is introduction to JBoss Fuse. Is that what you gave today?
I give an overall thing, but once we start with the classes, we'll start in a different way. So we'll start with the JBoss Fuse installation and configuration. We may not be following the syllabus in the same order because it is not structured the way it has to start. But we'll cover everything, but not in the same order.
Okay. So how often? I mean, when is it only on weekends or how is it?
It depends, like what is your availability. We have daily classes also, we have weekend classes also, so it depends on availability.
So how many total classes? I mean, I'm just trying to.
Syllabus, yeah, this syllabus we can cover in around 20 to 22 classes.
20
Normally 1 hour class. Yeah, normally 1 hour class, but definitely we don't constrain ourselves with an hour. Maybe there will be some 10 minutes, 15 minutes overflow. So that is okay. But
Okay.
20 to 22 classes, yes.
Okay, so 20 means if we do just weekends, then it will be difficult, right?
Yeah. If you want to just do on weekend, we have to do then maybe in 2 hours at least.
Okay.
Or if you want to do alternate days like Monday, Wednesday, or Friday kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, I think just weekend will be too long. Then it will take a few months. So
At least even if you do 2 hours per weekend, so per week we can do 4. So at least it will take 5 or 6 weekends.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So I mean, I'm like I told you, right? I don't know Maven much, and I don't know I don't know what Spring is. So maybe if there is some gap, then I can do some homework also.
Yeah.
And then do some reading on my own and come prepared for the class. So when do you want this next class to happen?
Yeah, you let your availability know to Shiva, and I'm okay to start anytime.
So, what's your name? I forgot your name. Sorry.
My name is also Shiv.
Shiv. Okay.
Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah.
Shiva. Hello,
Yeah. Hi.
Madan, Shiva. I'm Shiva here, and Srinivas also there. Srinivas,
Hi, hello.
do you have any questions? You can ask him, Shiva.
Hi, Shiva. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I have a question about AMQ installation, right? So I see JBoss AMQ a separate install and JBoss AMQ bundled with Fuse, right? So
Yeah.
what's the difference? Which one you install?
So if you say JBoss Fuse, it is a server, and it comes with a default message broker also. So it means JBoss Fuse will contain Fuse related thing plus ActiveMQ also.
Right.
So you can use this for Fuse. You can use for your development and testing and deployment of the integration cloud. But some people have only requirement to use a message broker. They don't need anything else. They don't need routing. They don't need any processing of message. They just want to use only message broker, pure message broker. So if you want to use pure message broker, then you can use JBoss AMQ.
Okay.
But if you need message broker plus the routing capabilities, then you have to use JBoss Fuse.
Okay. So for FT and load balancing, so you can use either of them or both support messaging concept?
Yeah, both support messaging, but in JBoss AMQ you have not you will not have much processing logic there. You cannot write some application and deploy in JBoss AMQ. It is only for the messaging broker, so it can expose some queues and topic which you can use for communication. Both support high availability and load balancing. Because load balancing and high availability, you mostly will use some other server. Let's say you will use some third-party application to do the load balancing, right? Or some hardware-based load balancing or software-based load balancing. So they both support load balancing.
Okay. Okay. So what's the commonly used trend? Like people use AMQ as a separate install, or they use the Fuse?
It depends on your completely requirement. Suppose that you have a requirement that you need to provide a message broker. So people will be sending message to you, they will be receiving message from you. That is their only requirement, then you don't need to install Fuse because it's a bigger installation. It's like 700, 800 MB. But if you AMQ is like this, I think around 250 MB. So it's a small application and only provides you message broker capability. Like you can expose queues, topics, and you can write some network of brokers or some small application there to host any messaging availability. But if you want to do extra processing on top of it, like you want to validate the message also, you want to transform the message also, you want to send a message from broker to some other system, then you need Fuse. So depending on what you want to do, you can choose any one of them.
Okay, got it.
If you want full-fledged capability, then you should go with Fuse. If you want limited capability, then you should go with ActiveMQ.
Okay.
But if you use Fuse, you will all internally you will get a ActiveMQ also.
Okay.
If it's something like if you take a big package, the small package is also included in that. Okay. Okay. So let me know if there is a question. Otherwise, I'm good. If you have any doubt, concerns, you can let me know.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. You can discuss with Shiva about the logistics and other things. And once you are okay, we can start.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, one last question. So you're gonna cover projects in all areas like web services, one project, and transformation, one project.
Yeah.
So you can cover everything, or
Yes. So whatever there in the syllabus, we'll cover all of them almost. So we'll cover some project in web services, SOAP services, and RESTful services. We'll cover some database related project. We'll cover exception related project, exception handling. We'll cover data transformation. So we'll cover at least 2-3 classes of the data transformation. We'll cover a project on message brokers. We'll cover some project on some EIP patterns, how to use them. All of them will be covering.
okay. Thanks.
Sure. Okay, talk to you later then. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.